Issue 42. It starts out wasting our time with the first panel telling us things we already know for the sake of a supposedly profound beginning. And since it immediately cuts to Sonic fighting Knuckles after that, it just makes the first panel seem even more pointless. Sonic is fighting Knuckles over the Chaos Emerald that keeps his island floating because the fate of Mobius apparently depends on it. It's an intriguing concept that gets me pretty excited, basically seeing Sonic fight Knuckles over the Master Emerald, which we've never seen before. But once again, the story starting in the middle of the action in media res made me briefly wonder if I'd skipped the story. I haven't. Apparently, we're just now learning that Knuckles' spare emerald was stolen from the Power Ring Grotto all this time. Was I expected to know that? I thought he had just found it lying around on his island. That Ring Grotto used to be royal real estate, meaning it belongs to the freedom fighters of King Acorn. For once, Knuckles and Sonic have a perfectly understandable reason for fighting each other. Well, comparatively, Knuckles should really just man up and give up the spare emerald because he can find another one, and if all of Mobius gets doomed, that'll obviously include his island. So he's not really thinking ahead, he's just thinking the single-minded track of protect the island. Like he's a robot that only cares about fulfilling programming for that. But it's perfectly in character for Knuckles. Tails finally steps in, with him being the mediator, breaking up the fight for once and making himself useful by explaining what the deal is with the king. Knuckles asks why they don't just get more rings from the grotto, even though it should be obvious that Chaos Emeralds are way more powerful than them, especially since he knows not Dimitri's story stating that even one has infinite power. It's a reasonable argument, but again, ill thought out. I'm confused, why did Sonic keep Tails from talking? Why can't Knuckles know about that? Sonic lies he tried, but Robotnik had sucked the Ring Grotto dry. I guess he's using that as an excuse to convince Knuckles to give him an emerald. Unfortunately, Knuckles is a stubborn jerk and insists that the survival of his homeland is just as important as the rebellion, failing to understand that if the world goes, the island goes with it. And if Robotnik runs free, he runs straight to Angel Island. What the fuck, Sonic just leaves? Without a fight or nothing? This is a major out-of-character moment for him, and this isn't a situation for him to just give up. He better have gone behind his back and gotten the spare emerald without noticing. Sadly, he doesn't. Sonic asks Sally if she can help her father with the rings Sonic had gotten from the Death Egg, which Uncle Chuck later reveals fails. Sally says that after reading Royal Doctrine, she believes she found the cure, the Crown of Acorns. So they do use the Freedom Emeralds. Come on, a magic crown belongs to the royal family? That's a Freedom Emeralds. And it's used in the perfect situation this time because now it's introduced in a situation that's begging for it. They don't have an emerald available to them, so this is the next best thing. Just as I was wondering why they don't already have the crown since there's no reason the royal family would part such a magical crown, we learned that the king was wearing the crown when he was banished and no one's recovered it. So we've got the Freedom Emeralds problem again. If it was so damn powerful, why didn't the king defeat Eggman with it? Also, I hope that crown has elemental powers, because then that wasted forgotten concept will be completely back. But Sally fills in this plot hole too by concluding that the king was wearing a phony crown. She shows a royal decree that should the reigning sovereign be in danger of capture or peril, he should ensure the crown's used for future generations, because we're expected to believe he will know ahead of time that he's going to be in peril to hide the crown, and because fuck actually using it to defend yourself and let's defend the crown. Instead, one must transport the crown to a magical dimension for safekeeping called the Hall of Limbo. Why Tails misread it as Jimbo? A J looks nothing like an L. Either that document has some really messy handwriting, or this is one of those really early on style make Tails look like a naive moron because he's a kid jokes, which I thought the comic had grown out of. Uncle Chuck theorizes that the rings might let them enter the zone. I like how he's here helping with the plan. It's always nice when he shows his genius, especially in ways other than being an inventor, because it's hard not to believe that we have Rotor and Eggman and later Tails and Archimedes as do-anything inventors without adding him to the mix. Uncle Chuck tells Sonic to remember that rings can grant knowledge. Since when? Why is he saying remember? Since when did rings teach Sonic anything? So Uncle Chuck goes back to his undercover job in Robotropolis before he would be missed, which is smart. And Sally says that they're going to Lake of Rings at dawn. Why not right now? And how do you know to go to Lake of Rings? Sure, it's related to rings, but only spawns one per day. So that seems to be just like a desperate last resort. But more importantly, I thought the king was in critical condition. You don't have time to postpone saving him until dawn. Oh, once every hour it spawns a ring. Since when? I could have sworn I read when it was first introduced as one per day. Is this a retcon? Well, I'm all for it. It makes the lake more useful. Sally and Tails are waiting far from the lake because it's possible the Combots may have transmitted its location in to Robotnik after they had ambushed Sonic and his friends. So Uncle Chuck had set up a meeting here with Fly Freddy to report on what Robotnik really knows. Tails is just viewed as a tag-along kid by the other freedom fighters, so I can sort of understand him having to be told this as if he doesn't already know for the sake of the audience. The dog movie in disguise as SWAT agrees to detail the spy's report while everyone heads to the lake, and Sally annoys me when she arbitrarily bitches about how this isn't standard procedure, and without even bothering to explain why. She really is lawful stupid. This isn't the time to be complaining to him about that, whatever that is. Sonic is a reasonable one, saying that since they're already behind schedule, they can trust him with its location, even though it was annoying how he still agreed with her and trusts him. Why wouldn't you trust him? He's an ally, isn't he? And a Mobian? This is just Sally being overly paranoid again. It's revealed that Robotnik never got any data before Sonic destroyed the Combots. This was just what I was expecting because if Eggman knew where the Lake of Rings was, he would have surrounded it with an electric fence and patrolling SWAT bots by now to claim it as his own. Huh? Why is it turning evil? I'm completely dumbfounded and confused. I never really had an attachment to it to begin with. I'm just frustrated by the bad writing. It comes out of nowhere, a spy against Eggman randomly being swayed to work for him in a position of power. Not to mention he's stupid enough to trust Eggman to hold up his end of the bargain and not roboticize him. What is he, brainwashed? With a chip in his brain? This is a diabolus ex machina in a nutshell. It's almost as bad as a later betrayal that's much more infamous in the comic. Almost because I never cared about this character. Also, I'd like to point out, I assumed he was some random thug when I first saw him. So yeah, Mobian with no reason to support Eggman the roboticizer guy betrays Sally. I did get an odd satisfaction out of seeing him kick Sally though. I guess I was just happy to see that proud, holier-than-thou, lawful stupid princess get taken down a peg. Especially after she got no comeuppance for court-martialing Sonic. I say this as someone who kinda likes her. She doesn't get this enough. But again, this betrayal feels forced. It comes out of nowhere just for the sake of proving Sally right about her lawful stupid paranoia. It's revealed that Fly Freddy had been roboticized and is working for Eggman now. What a shocker. A flying fly movie and shooting lasers is a cool concept for a robot at least. Oh yeah, Bunny comes in to help with the fight because she was still on patrol around Lake of Rings, but I only remembered to mention this after completing the review. I guess I just took it for granted, and it didn't seem like they needed her when Sonic and Knuckles and even Sally were handling the SWAT bots just fine. Sonic gets the ring generated by the lake just as Knuckles finally comes in for a big damn heroes moment that once again comes out of nowhere, and Tails flies Sonic in the air with a pretty charming funny remark. Knuckles shows that he's a serious foil to them by reminding them that they're in the middle of battle, running under the assumption that they aren't competent enough to be good in battle and joke around while having fun with it. Talk about genre blind. Sonic generates a tornado to destroy a bunch of SWAT bots by simply spinning his arms downwards at his side instead of in front of him like I'd imagine creating a tornado magically to work. You know, the way that it's done to create a giant tornado in The Legend of Korra. I could buy if Tails was doing this, but as much of an aerokinetic as Sonic is too, his creating tornadoes in this way makes no sense. Spinning his whole body or running a circle makes sense to create so much wind, but spinning his arms in such a tiny area, not so much. Still, it is one of the least ridiculous out of nowhere powers he's had. It's at least wind-based. So with Knuckles having come to his senses for the sake of plot convenience, they had their hands on Chaos Emerald. I don't understand why he'd have found the Acorn Kingdom beautiful when it's not part of his precious island. I mean, it's not like it even looks that different from the island to begin with. There's woods and stuff. And Uncle Chuck says that for some time he suspected that there might be a double agent in his spy network. You know guys, you could have had him mention that earlier so that Betrayal wouldn't feel like an inexplicable ass pull for the sake of drama. You know, foreshadowing. And Chuck's fears were confirmed when Fred had foolishly failed to report for orders. So he knew, but he didn't get the chance to do anything. Oh, he did actually. Not knowing who he could now trust, he called Knuckles using an outdated and untraceable frequency. Why the hell does Knuckles have this kind of technology? I thought he hated technology and was glad the Echidnas had abandoned it. I could only assume that the Chaotix slowly helped him get used to it so that he could get over that. Because I'm sorry, I don't see Knuckles agreeing to this. Fans would get confused if the game said that Knuckles had a cell phone, and that's just the games. So Chuck had called Knuckles over to help. And okay, it's just a loan of the Emerald. Now it makes a lot more sense. Although it also makes his saying no a lot earlier even more arbitrary. Well, Sonic did say that the emerald could also be used for fighting Eggman and stuff, so Knuckles had no reason to assume he would get it back. The Order uses the device to release the emerald's pure energy. Wait a minute. First off, pure energy is redundant. There's nothing impure about it. And second, wouldn't that device need to drain the energy from the emerald to work? Exactly like Dimitri had done? Because that worked so well the first time. Why is Knuckles worried about history repeating itself? Oh, but I guess it'll work fine if Rotor does it. Unfortunately, it just further crystallizes the king, but only temporarily. It reverses itself after he stops. That was very convenient. Knuckles has a point. The emerald's energies are just too mysterious. They are Chaos Emeralds after all. Sonic uses the ring he got from Liquor Rings to get some knowledge on where the magic crown might be and falls over, learning that the king's royal sword has a magical link to the crown and it'll lead them to it. A sword being magical makes perfect sense to me. I can imagine it being a badass wand in an RPG. It's a cool concept. Sonic complains that he doesn't know where the sword is. Why didn't the ring just tell him that? Gee, rings are dicks. It was pretty sweet of Knuckles to relate to Sally with losing her father and holding her hand, although it's still hard to get used to their forced, random, long history of friendship together. Since when is Knuckles this close with anyone? What has Sally done to earn this? Knuckles says that because he's her friend for some reason, he's making it his personal quest to find that sword, even though having people like Sonic along would increase his chances of finding it and making it out of the journey alive. Good, he's at least not completely alone, complaining that he has to ride next to Tails above the water and Tails the submarine right afterwards. Knuckles comes to the logical conclusion that if he's going to find a magic sword, it makes the most sense for it to reside in a magical place. So he should reach out to a great source of magic. The ancient walkers are of course a great source of magic. They only appear when something big happens? Well, okay, I guess Eggman having an evil plan kinda counts as something big happening, but he does it all the time. So shouldn't they always be out? And if that's the reasoning, why don't they appear to stop Eggman? You know, with those magical powers they're hoarding to themselves? How the hell did Tails know about Knuckles' visit with the ancient walkers? And the fact that he thought that he had died? Not answering this question, Tails says that Athari, Knuckles' great-grandfather, is the only guy with a direct link between him and the walkers, so he could help them out, and he was last seen in Down Under. So this is making good use of the continuity of the Tails miniseries rather than completely forgetting about everything in it and wasting some good lore. Good. They search for several hours until Knuckles for some reason doubts Tails, saying that the crater was the result of the floating island leaving the ground, creating arbitrary conflict that's fortunately cut off before he can hit a little kid in a serious jerk moment. I like how Athari basically calls him out on how violent he is. But what do you expect from a Guardian? Violence is all he's been taught. Knuckles reveals an interesting tidbit that Athari isn't a Guardian because he was the only member of their family who didn't become a Guardian, calling him a coward. Wait, so every single other member of Knuckles' family chose to become Guardians? No other career paths? That sounds depressing as shit. So were siblings not a thing in his family after the Dimitri incident? Otherwise I have to wonder if there were ever a whole bunch of different Guardians at one time, or if siblings would take turns or something. Because I'm not sure how every single member being a Guardian could be possible. I mean, I can sort of understand no siblings, because if Edward didn't have a brother, Dimitri, bad things wouldn't have happened, but still. Also, the way Knuckles worded it, it's like he thinks his family line didn't truly start until he started the whole Guardian thing. Because obviously his ancestors before that were not Guardians. So Athari's not even close to the only member of the family who wasn't a Guardian. And why the hell did he say, by the beads of Athari, as an exclamation in Sonic's quest, if he doesn't respect and revere Athari? Athari has another remark that I really like, being possibly the only person in the Sonic franchise who points out that it's smarter to guard the universe. With just one little gem in it. I say I like it because I can imagine sitting in front of an emerald all day with nothing to do being an extremely boring career choice. And while the comic justifies him not guarding with technology, he hates it, or hiding it underground or with gun, it can't leave the Chaos Chamber without consequences to the island. Most continuities never resolve these issues, leaving me to wonder why Knuckles wastes his time being a terrible Guardian, when it'd be safer just being hidden in some random dirt patch or in a vault. However, how does Athari expect to guard the universe? How powerful is he? Maybe he means the ancient walkers will help, but Robotnik took over the world! Now he's guarding the universe there. Authority then reveals that he's never met Knuckles in person before. So why did Knuckles use an exclamation named after him then? Also, I guess Authority wasn't too close with his family then, because you'd think that his family would have introduced him to Knuckles after he was born. Because, you know, it's a family thing. It becomes dark after Authority says he already knows why they're there, because he probably had a psychic vision, or an ancient walker did. It's explained by someone else that Knuckles and Tails are being sent into another wacky dimension. By the way, I love Knuckles and Tails actually getting to go on an adventure together, alone with each other, because their friendship is never really explored. We usually don't know what they even think of each other. Why the hell is Tails surprised that a Chaos Emerald won't help the king when he just saw it crystallizing him back at home? And why are the ancient walkers talking like emeralds are all they care about? If they foresaw their arrival, and Authority said he already knows why they're here, why don't the ancient walkers already know they're looking for the magic sword? Knuckles naturally has another brief conflict with Tails by complaining at him for explaining to the walkers where the situation with the king is, but is interrupted again by the walkers, instead of sending them home like dicks, actually helping them out. I was expecting them to be unhelpful after the time a walker said he'd give Sonic the answer to any question, since he's somehow omniscient apparently, only to take just one as his question. Omniscience is logically impossible, by the way. The point is, they're told that on a once lush world and its hunk of floating stone, I'm guessing that's Angel Island, there's a sorcerer, wizard, and alchemist with a hat ripping off Merlin. Nice concept, but you misspelled sorcerer there. And sorcerer and wizard are really redundant. Especially since sorcerer basically is translated to as sorcerer in French, so they're the same exact thing. The ancient walkers are supposed to be wise, and yet they basically say the same thing twice when describing a person. Unless there's a subtle difference between sorcerer and wizard in the Sonic universe I'm not aware of. Also, that wizard/sorcerer doesn't look too reliable. He looks like a tired donkey. It's explained that Knuckles and Tails will have to face a charlatan, enchantress, and paladin. Paladins are typical evil figures now? One of these things is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong. Seriously, I thought paladins were like the holiest of knights, whatever that's even supposed to mean. Final Fantasy IV anyone? And apparently Knuckles needs patience to get past them. Ha! Good luck with that. Oh man, Knuckles really is going it alone. That sucks. I wanted to see more Knuckles and Tails as friends together. Of course it gets cut short. But at least from what I can gather, he thinks that Tails is just a stupid little kid. Well, at least it's something. I was pretty confused learning that Knuckles' quest with Knuckles and Tails was actually the backup story written by a different writer. Because not only was it actually bothered to be included in the video for once, but it was a continuation of the main story. So that sent me searching for a backup story that didn't exist. The main story was by Kent Taylor, and I gotta say I was pretty impressed. Aside from the very arbitrary and random portrayal, which could have easily been foreshadowed, this was a pretty engaging start to an epic adventure. I love how they basically reintroduced the Freedom Emeralds into the comic, even if they're called something else and don't seem to involve elemental powers anymore. Knuckles' quest was by Ken Penders and by Penders and Kent Taylor. That's a new one. And then again, it was an intriguing start to an epic adventure. Authority had a few lines I liked. Knuckles and Tails were on an adventure together. And so we actually got to see what Knuckles thought about Tails and how they interact for once across the franchise because of it. There were lots of concepts I liked in this story. Having to use something other than previously established rings or an emerald to revive the king is much more interesting, and requires the hero to really work for it. I just hope that Knuckles searching for the sword alone isn't too boring, with him monologuing to himself with no one to talk to.